Okay, hello everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to be able to attend this webinar on behalf of Hunan University. I'm Hu Yan, a PhD candidate at Hunan University. Today, I would like to share the trends in building and ductwork airtightness in China. There are three parts in my report. The first part is the building airtightness. It was not investigated and discussed in China until about 20 years ago, but with the increased requirement on building energy efficiency, the airtightness of building envelope has become an important concern to improve the quality of buildings. At present, most studies on building airtightness are concentrated in the northern part of China, primarily characterized by the severe cold and cold climate. We also used the parameters N50 and Q50 to evaluate the building airtightness, which represent the air change rate and the air linkage rate per unit area at the reference pressure of 50 Pascal. In the past decade, China has successfully formulated some relevant requirements. For example, the GBT 34010 is the first national standard that provides guidelines on airtightness testing. And the GBT 7106 provides guidelines on the airtightness of doors and windows. And the 3TCE-CS, it classifies the airtightness of the whole building into 8 levels. We can see the table, the classification of the whole airtightness of buildings, but is the under natural pressure difference. If we want to know the classification based on the reference pressure of 50 Pascal, we should transfer the relationship. In fact, it is not the better the airtightness, the more energy saving. There are 5 different climate regions in China, and the airtightness requirements vary from one to another climate region. This table in this slide shows the airtightness requirements for ultra-low and nearly zero energy buildings in different climate regions. We can see that the airtightness requirements is not very high in the regions characterized by a warm climate. Is that, for example, the residential buildings is less than 1 air change rate per hour. Airtightness related research is coordinated and promoted mainly by energy agency responsible for energy efficiency in the capital cities of each province. At present, the standard TCECS and this GBT 34010 provide guidelines on testing airtightness of building in China. They introduced the airtightness test and the evaluation method in detail, including the fan pressurization method and the tracer gas method. And there is no mandatory requirement for airtightness test of existing buildings so far. If a new building does not meet the airtightness requirements, the developer is responsible for improvement. For example, by filling the gaps of the door and the window frames. In China, the main EP calculation tool developed by a domestic institution is test, and the input values of airtightness were obtained by the test based on some relevant standards. If there is no tested data, we can use the recommended airtightness values specified in relevant standards as the default values, such as the TCCS. There is no qualification scheme for airtightness testers in China so far. Most of the past airtightness tests were performed according to the international standard ISO 9972 with a blower door method. And after the end of 2020, the TCCS gradually became the main reference standard. And also, there are no requirements for the selection of measuring devices, but there are requirements for the accuracy of the measuring devices. As shown in this table, there are pressure, temperature, airflow measuring devices, the requirements for the accuracy of the measuring devices. Because the current regulations and the standards in China do not impose mandatory requirements for airtightness tests after constructing new building. The actual percentage of buildings tested in China is unknown so far. Airtightness surveys have been organized at the government level, mainly in the northern region. The airtightness test data for the mild region and the hot summer and warm winter region is basically absent, probably because the warm climate. And the airtightness tests in southern China are mainly concentrated in hot summer and cold winter region, and is getting more attention. Before the year 2020, most of the buildings have serious air linkages. But after 2020, buildings in China are moving towards a higher level of airtightness and energy efficiency. The second part is about the ductwork airtightness. There are not many studies on airtightness test of ductwork. And people are concerned more about the flow resistance, noise control, and the air filtration of ductwork. Some statistics show that the air linkage ratio of ductwork of HVAC systems is generally around 18%, and that because of the poor joints, and is often as high as 10 to 15%. In China, there is only the concept of air linkage rate level of ductwork rather than air tightness level, and the indicator is the flow rate. It is related to the pressure difference, but the pressure difference is not clearly defined. And the table in this slide shows the air linkage constant and air linkage limit per unit surface area for different types of ductworks. No information is available about incentive for good airtightness of ductwork so far. Ductwork airtightness is tested usually when problems arise and the owners or managers permit it. If the measured air linkage rate does not meet the requirements, repair work will be performed. And also the developer will not be penalized if the ductwork does not meet the requirements. Ductwork airtightness is not an input value for EP calculations. Also, there is a lack of attention to this. Also, there is no qualification scheme for the testers. of ductwork airtightness in China so far. About the national guidelines, the GB 50243 is the most commonly used standard to deal with the ductwork inspection. And the GB 50591, it provides guidelines the airtightness test, but it is only for the clean room air conditioning systems. There are no specific requirements for measuring devices, and it is recommended to use measuring devices and components manufactured in accordance with the current national standard. Okay, a few large-scale tests have been conducted in China. So the tested data is difficult to obtain. According to the current national standard, the constant pressure test method is adopted to measure the air linkage rate by the air duct linkage. There are some relevant standards that specify the material selection, production, installation, and inspection. Okay, at last, we can make a summation. The airtightness test for building are being promoted across China, as evidenced by the fact that there are more tests in the southern regions of China than before. And the second, the relevant standards and the technologies about the building airtightness are gradually improved, and the construction process of workers is also better supervised. And the third, the ductwork airtightness has not received enough attention. And the next one, the relevant test standards about the ductwork airtightness need to be improved, and more studies should be conducted in the future. That's all for me. Thank you. Thank you for your listening.